Hey everyone, sorry about that. Sorry for joining late, but um, today is day 25. We are coming up on the end. Um, Only a couple more days. So, uh, today we're going to cover the cumulative review number 7, which is on page 595 in your course pack. Um, so we have just a reminder that uh, on this upcoming Thursday, I'll be running the class in the morning. We're going to cover the Chapter 11 project, but I'm not going to be holding the class in the evening this Thursday. Okay, so just a reminder on that. Uh, so this is our last cumulative review. We do have the sample final, which is kind of like a cumulative review of everything, but there is a cumulative review number 8 in your course pack that we are not doing. So if you want to, and that one covers chapters 1 through 11, just like the final, just like the sample final. So if you really want to study, the cumulative review number 8 is a good one. It's basically like a mini final exam. You can look over it and you know make sure you can do all those questions and you'll be good to go. Okay. All right. So um page 595, cumulative review number 7. I've been trying to catch up on grading. So as we're getting closer to the end and you start studying for the final exam, if there is any particular assignment where you're like, Joe, I really need this graded so that I know what I got right or wrong so I can study, just message me and let me know. Because right now you know, I kind of grade this and then I go back and grade this. I kind of jump around, so I don't necessarily grade them in any particular order. So, um, yeah. Okay, so before we jump into this, so there's a couple of data sets that we're going to want to get. Because this one, you guys remember doing these back in chapter 2 a long time ago when we first started, right? There was still snow on the ground outside. It was cold back when we were doing chapter 2. Uh, for these, we're going to do this in Google Sheets, and there's actually a Google Sheet with the data already started for you. So if you click on the cumulative review number 7 in Canvas, there's a link, and when you click on that link, it will take you to this page that has all the data sets for all the different worksheets. The cumulative review number 7 is almost down at the very bottom. There's two links here, one for the Google Sheet and one for the StatCrunch. So I will drop those in the chat for you. Here is the Google Sheet one. Oh, and the StatCrunch one is saying, I don't have access to this data. Okay, well, let's see what it's. All right, well, when we get to that, we'll deal with that when we get to it. So I'm not going to drop the StatCrunch one in there. Um, okay, so, but we'll start with just the Google Sheet here. So we need to do file make a copy because we can't edit this one. And I'm going to save it in my Spring folder here. All right. Oh, it's Spring. So once you've done file make a copy, we can edit this. Okay. Um, but I am going to stop my screen share. And I'd love for someone to share their screen and show us how you would fill in the table here. Is there anyone on the call who can share their screen with us. Then remember how to do these midpoints, relative frequency, cumulative frequency. It's been a while, right? Since we've done
Yeah,
these.
nothing like putting them on the spot first thing today. Go back to
Hmm.
chapter 3.
Hmm.
Hmm. Nic-
Oh, okay.
Nicole said she did hers in Desmos.
I mean, that's fine. Yeah, that's just gonna take you a lot longer because uh, Google Sheets allows you to do the copy formulas, right? So, so for my midpoint, I need to start with my foundational midpoint, which is equals. I take the lower limit, right, plus the next lower limit, which is 20,000. Okay. And then you divide that by 2, so I put it in parentheses. And so my first midpoint, my foundational midpoint is 15,000, right? Okay. So now I need to know what my width is. What's the width in this case? What's the width of these classes or groups? Well, down it says 10,000. Yep. So you take your next midpoint, 20,000 minus, oops, minus the previous midpoint, 10,000. So, yep, my width is 10,000. Why do I need to know that? Because now I can use a formula and I do equals and I click on the 15,000 right here. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Plus 10,000. And so here's my next midpoint. So if you wanted to do this in Desmos, you'd have to do that same calculation for row 4, row 5, row 6, row 7, row 8. Okay. But you don't need to do that. If you once you've got the second formula here, if you hover over this little dot in the lower right hand corner, you can click and drag that down, or you can double click it, and we have all of our midpoints now. Okay, so doing this in Excel or Google Sheets allows you to copy formulas. So, but as long as you get the same numbers, that's fine because you don't need to turn in this Google Sheet. You just need to write your numbers, your answers on the paper, right? So 15,000, 25,000, right? So, okay. All right. Next, we need to do a relative frequency. Relative frequency is frequency divided by total. So I need my total, yes? Total equals sum. We sum up all of these. So 211. So for relative frequency, it's equals, and you click on the frequency, and then you divide by the total, which in this case is 211. And then copy that formula down. I don't need all those decimal places. There we go. There's my relative frequencies. Um, 3 decimal places? Okay, so let's do one more. There we go. 0.085. All right, write all those down. Cumulative frequency is a two-step process. We do, first of all, we copy the 18. Now, if you write the number 18 like this, that's fine. You could do that way, okay? But if you write it as a formula, so equals, and then click on the 18, that's going to make it so that you could just copy those formulas over here to the cumulative relative frequencies, okay? So I said this column E, is a two-step process. First thing you need to do is you need to copy that first frequency. The next one down, we do equals, and we click on the frequency plus the cell right above. And then you can copy that formula down. Your last one, 211, should match your total, right? And if you did that as formulas, if the whole thing is formulas, then you can copy those formulas here to your cumulative relative frequency, and you'll be done. Now, if you didn't, that's okay too. So the other option is if you want to do cumulative relative frequency the same way that we did relative frequency. So if you instead wanted to do it as equals, and then you click on your cumulative frequency and divide by your total, it'll give you the same results. Same numbers as what I had a second ago, right? So either way is fine. All right, so once you've done that, just fill in all the table. I started filling in the table, but you guys can fill in the rest. Okay. All right. I'm gonna skip through some of these, give you some hints on some of the hard ones. Let's do this one. I want to find the mean and the standard deviation. Now, one of the nice things about these cumulative reviews is it's not just chapter 10, it's not just chapter 7, it's everything, right? So just like on test day, I'm not just testing one chapter, I'm testing everything. So we're going to use this to practice finding where everything is in our exam notes packet. Where do I look in my exam notes packet for part H? Find the following: the mean and the standard deviation. What page is that on? Page 254. Yes, Nicole's got it. Page 254. There were 3 methods to calculate mean and standard deviation. So which method am I using here? Method 1, 2, or 3? Method 1 is if I have raw data, I have one column of data. Method 2 is if I have a frequency distribution, and Nicole says it's method 2. Yep, I have a frequency distribution here. Method 3 is for a probability distribution. This is method 2. So method 2 says we are going to do stats, summary stats, grouped bins. Now, I need to get my data in there into StatCrunch. I don't need all the data. I just need my midpoints and my frequencies. I need that in StatCrunch. Well, I closed StatCrunch. probably what the data, that's probably what data was in that link. But as long as we have the Google Sheet, we can just copy and paste it. So we can do it off of a blank StatCrunch. All right, so I copied my midpoints and my frequencies. Okay. I mean, we could have just typed them in. There's only, what, 14 numbers here. But if you've got the Google Sheet, you might as well copy and paste. And then it said method 2 was summary stats grouped binned. And then our bins were the midpoints. I didn't rename it. I just left it as var1. That's fine, right? Counts are in var2. And I need the mean and the standard deviation, right? So hit compute. And my mean is 35,947.87. Standard deviation 14,311.24. Right. And also, we need to interpret these values. There's a script for that on page 253 to put the values in the context of the situation. All right. I should have answered part I first. The values we found, are they parameters or statistics? Parameters or statistics for question number 1. What do you guys think? Kelly says statistics, Nicole says parameters. So depends on if this is a sample or a population. Following distribution represents the lowest manufacturer suggested retail price for a random sample of cars. This is a sample, so it's statistics. Why did that matter? Well, here, if my standard deviation, if I'd been looking at parameters, if I'd been looking at the entire population, I wouldn't have wanted the standard deviation. I would have wanted the unadjusted standard deviation, right? So luckily in this case, we wanted the normal one, so we were fine. So this is correct. All right. Let's go to this page. Let's see. So this table shows screening for breast cancer, cervical cancer by different race, ethnicities. We want to find patients randomly select, find the probability. So there were some probability rules for or and for not, right? Those are also on page 254 at the bottom. Okay. Would any of these events be considered unusual? We consider it unusual. There were 2 ways we considered something unusual. It depended on whether you were looking at probability or whether you were looking at z-scores. For probability, if a probability is less than 5%, less than 0.05, then we would say that that was unusual. If it was beyond 2 standard deviations, if you're looking at z-scores, then we would consider it unusual. So in that case, it could be if your z-value is bigger than 2 or less than -2. Okay. If it's between 2 and -2, then we consider it not unusual. Okay. Um, let's go to the next page. Quality control manager believes that the average calories per 5-ounce serving of vanilla yogurt is less than 175 calories. Gather a random sample of vanilla yogurts, and these are their calorie counts. Now, at the table, 3 decimal places. We need the mean, standard deviation, and n. So if we're going to calculate a mean and a standard deviation, we will be looking at page 254 again, but this time, which method do we want for this? Method 1. Method 1 is if you have just a single column of data, or in this case, a single row, okay? So this is where we needed that link to StatCrunch, but unfortunately that didn't work. So we're just going to have to type all the numbers out. 160, 200, right? Let's see. It's 220, 140, 130, 70, 190, 80, 20, 100, and 170. It's not that many numbers to type out. Let me just make sure I got them all. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, I got 14. All right. So these are my calories for these yogurts. So method 1 said we would do stat, summary stats, columns. And I click on which column has my data. In this case, it's the calorie column. I want the mean and the standard deviation and the n, but do I want the standard deviation for a sample, which is just called standard deviation, or do I want this unadjusted standard deviation, which is what we should be using when we have a population? So let's see, is this a population or a sample? Quality control manager believes the average calories for 5-ounce serving of yogurt, vanilla yogurt is less than, I would say, calories. Yeah, they're random sample. So sample means just use regular standard deviation. Okay. So our X bar, our mean is 157. Wait, 3 decimal places, 857. Standard deviation 44.752, and n is 14. Okay. So, when you look at the label on yogurt and it says like, here's the serving size, here's how many calories it has, here's all these different things. Like, is it is every single uh, container of yogurt exactly the same? No, right? It's all mixed together, right? So you expect them to be around the same amount each, but you know, uh, they're not going to be exactly the same. They're going to be, some will have a little more, some will have a little less, right? So your average is 157. So that's what they're going to put on the label, okay? Verify the conditions to construct a hypothesis. Met, random, independent, and normal. Okay. And then use a 5% significance test to level to test the manager's claim. So where are the steps to do a hypothesis test? Well, there's a couple of them, right? So which page do we want to be looking at for this? Because I've got a hypothesis test for single proportion, hypothesis test for single mean, test difference for 2 independent populations, test mean for matched pairs differences, test difference for 2 independent means. There's lots. This exam notes packet is really helpful, but there's a ton of pages. So which page should I be looking at to do this hypothesis test? first of all, do we have one? Are we testing one sample or we have multiple samples? The answer is we have one, right? So we haven't covered chapter 11 yet. The last 3 pages of your exam notes packet covered chapter 11. We'll be talking about that on Thursday as well as next week. So it's either page 262 or page 263. Page 263 is hypothesis testing for single proportions. Page 263 is hypothesis testing for a single mean. Are we looking at mean or proportion in this case? Means, that's right. We're looking at the average calories in the yogurt, right? So that means we want page 263. Okay. That's where we'll find our formula. That's where we'll find, uh, you know, what we're going to click for StatCrunch. Okay. So there we go. All right. Our last page is page 598. In 2022, 25% of US adults said they would buy an electric vehicle for the next purchase. A researcher at Ford believes the percentage of US adults who say they would buy an EV has gone up. So now it's 2026, so 4 years later, I think that number is higher because they're trying to decide should we make more of these EV vehicles or not. They gathered a random sample of this many people and found that 29% of them would buy electric vehicles. Okay. So we're doing a hypothesis test of proportion now. So that'll be on page 262. Yes? Right. That's all the hints for now. Let's jump back to page 595.